What's up, guys? This week we're going to be taking a look at the WGC Bridgestone played at Firestone in Ohio. But before we get into really break down the players in the field and the course itself, I just want to get into what my week-to-week process is like and hopefully give you guys an idea as to why you should care what I think, or at the least help you guys each week with building your teams and how to think about how to build your teams. So really the first thing I do, and it's kind of a process here looking at the final product, but the first thing I do is when they release the fields, I export the field to a Word document, and this is here's the base. And obviously you see these final stats and you see the stats I've really keyed in on for this week, but you can't really do that without knowing the course. So through scouring the internet and reading what other smart people have to say, and I can link who I read and where I get my information. I pretty much try and figure out what kind of course it is and why certain things are going to matter. So Firestone is a par 70 that's 7,400 yards. Doesn't really have much water, and it has really thick rough. So, naturally, 7,400 yards for a par 70 is just ridiculous. So driving distance is going to matter. If the rough was more forgiving, I still would probably include strokes gained off the tee just because, it's more meaningful than driving distance by itself, but I would weigh driving distance equally to strokes gained. But Firestone, the rough is really brutal. This course really plays similar to like Torrey Pines or Memorial. Both are par 70s. Both, you really have to drive the ball well to win, which is why I included both distance and strokes gained off the tee. Strokes gained tee to green is just always going to matter. It's just, you just have to hit the ball well to win, especially in a field like this. Par 4 scoring is going to matter more on a par 70 because there's only 2 par 5s, still 4 par 3s, and 12 par 4s. So, 2/3 of the holes you're playing are par 4s. You really have to score on the par 4s. Putting, again, is just always going to matter. And then it's DraftKings, so you have to make birdies to score points. Now, where I go from here to create this is basically just... I can't just give the formula, not because it's some top secret, it's just week to week it varies because I decide myself what I think matters the most. So like this week I weighed strokes gained off the tee and birdie or better slightly higher than the other 4 categories, and then I combined them all to create this. I shouldn't have ordered it this way to start because you really kind of already have the Cliff Notes version of who I'm going to like this week. Instead, I'm going to do this, and I think this is going to mess it up, but yeah, just got to scroll a little bit. Okay, so we'll start with the tiers. And I should give a forewarning, I guess, and make it aware that I'm very clear that this is, using world ranks for the season in certain categories is far from perfect for a number of reasons. We'll start with the first and most obvious reason. Dustin is going to rate out the best every single week. And so, like, every single week, he is just far. Look at how ridiculous this is. Go back to the formula. Yikes. Go back to the formula. He's 7th in distance. He's 1st in strokes gained off the tee. He's 1st in strokes gained tee to green. He's 1st in par 4 scoring. He's 1st in birdies. He's even a top 20 putter. The guy has just played off the charts this year, excuse me. And so every week, what I do is going to say go with Dustin that he plays. And that is one reason that, you just can't do that. I guess, like, you could do that if it was peak Tiger. You're just not going to make money spending, $11,500 a week on Dustin. You're just not going to, despite how well he's played. So that is one problem, is that it really underrates. It really doesn't, or excuse me, it doesn't rate it at all. It doesn't give you a feel for who plays what courses well, and it doesn't give you a feel for recent form. Another example I'll give you of that is, he's got to be here somewhere. He's here every freaking week. There he is, 44th in this field, which I guess isn't that high because there's only 70 people or so. Is Patton Kizzire. I like Patton Kizzire. He's got that southern draw. He always, I mean, when he's on PGA Tour Live, he makes me laugh. It just seems like he doesn't have a care in the world. But dude has not played good golf in 6 months, and every week, because he had 2 wins to start the season. I mean, it's gotten worse and worse as he's played worse and worse, but he still rates out okay at all these courses. And so you really have to, this is just a starting point, for any of you poker players who are delving into DraftKings. Like, you can have a basic formula, but you have to be able to deviate, and you have to be able to use your own critical thinking to go from here. So I don't want you to think that I'm basically just sorting by this formula, because I'm not at all. Which is why figuring out what type of course it is, and more importantly, recent form, is so important. So we're going to go back to the tiers and figure out how to build our team this week. Okay, so we're going to start with 10 through 11.7. And even though I just said what I said, it's going to be really tough to not go with Dustin. He just scores so many more points than everyone. And the key thing is, to bring us back to what I was talking about, figuring out when not to go Dustin. There's 2 main, and not just Dustin, the most expensive guys. So the 2 main things you have to think about is, does he rate out well at this course? Or, I mean, he's going to rate out well at every course, but better than most. And what is his ownership going to be like? So last week at Glen Abbey, Dustin rated out amazing. He won. He crushed the field. Great. But he was always going to be 33% owned. Or not exactly 33, but he was just always going to be ridiculously owned. It was a soft field. It was obvious that he was made for that course. So even though I did go with him a few times, I would say last week would have been maybe a better week to fade Dustin than it would be this week. And I say that because Tiger's going to be popular this week. Justin Rose is always popular. People love Spieth. People love Ricky. Dustin's ownership isn't going to be below 10%, but it's not going to be 30% again. And he just won, and he's the best player in the world. So if you're telling me that you're going to spend 11.7 on Dustin when you know a third of the field's going to have him, I think you should pay up when maybe only a fifth of the field's going to have him, maybe less. I mean, I just think there's a good argument to be made for spending the money on Dustin. Which brings us to Rory, who honestly might get lost in this shuffle. Once again, Rose is always amongst the most popular. Everyone knows Tiger's history at Firestone. And Spieth and Fowler, they're just not going to be low owned. I mean, maybe Jordan might, but Ricky, everyone loves Ricky, and if you can get him at exactly 10,000. So Rory could be, he's not even like I'm blanking on the word right now. He's not even a contrarian play, because, I mean, he's won here before. He drives the ball really well. I mean, if he can just putt well, I mean, it's not too far-fetched to say he could win. So, strangely enough, I think the top 2 in these top 6, if you're going to pay up, I would pay up. Because Tiger's going to be high owned. He just is. They really tried to make it so he wasn't. And 10,800 is ridiculous. And I say that as, I mean, he's my favorite golfer ever, probably. But I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can justify paying up for him unless you really, really believe in his course history. If you just think that it doesn't matter that he has struggled driving the ball and he's going to need a hit driver well, you just think he's comfortable here and he knows how to play this course. That's the only reason I would pay for Tiger. So yeah, I think if I had to rank these top 6, I would put DJ and Rory in the top tier, and then I would put Rose close to them. Spieth might be the lowest owned of the 6, which makes me want to group him with Rose because, I mean, we all know about Spieth's putting woes this year, but I mean, if you can get him at a 10 to 15%, he can win this. He's Jordan Spieth. He can win any tournament he plays. And then I would put Tiger and Ricky in the bottom tier. I think Tiger's going to be too popular and he's too expensive. And Ricky doesn't do it for me. He seems like a cool guy. I think he's really good. And I actually told my friend at the beginning of this year that I thought I'd bet on him to win a major. But just look across the board, and he hasn't executed this year. I'm not saying that he can't, but and we're gonna get into that in a second. I just wouldn't pay $10,000 for Ricky Fowler when I can pay $9,800 for Day or $9,600 for Rahm. So we'll go to the next tier. Those are my thoughts on the elite value guys, and we'll just go. We'll group this 8 to 9,800 range. Well, one definitely sticks out, and I'm sure everyone is going to be on him. I'd be shocked if he was not the highest owned player in the field this week, and that's JT. I do not get this at all. I don't understand what DraftKings is doing, to be honest. I know his form isn't the best, but 8,800 is insane. You can get him for $2,000 cheaper than Tiger Woods. That's ridiculous. I mean, he's closer to Dustin than he is to anybody else, probably. Yeah, not probably. He's closer to Dustin than anybody else in the world. It's insane that he's $1,600 less than Spieth, $1,200 less than Ricky. I mean, what are we doing here? He's gonna be he's never played well at this course, and I guess driving accuracy is his weakness. If I'm gonna play devil's advocate, so I mean, anyone who's gonna roster JT, and I assume it's a lot of people, just know that you're not gonna be the only one because this price is insane. What it does do though, and it really creates an interesting dynamic this week. Really interesting, actually. I mean, Brooks Koepka should play well at this course, and he's got that run, whatever that guy's name is, Rick DFS. I watch his videos every week. He's awesome. He always talks about the sandwich plays. Stenson's always popular. Justin's gonna be ridiculous this week. Fleetwood's always popular. Molinari, everyone knows what he's doing. Koepka, he really might just fly just straight under the radar. And he should play well this week. He hits it far. He hits it well. I mean, he's 25th in strokes gained off the tee. His putter, like when it's hot, it's hot. We saw it at the U.S. Open. And he makes birdies. And I mean, really, when you're building your team this week, you got to think about two things. Because everyone in this field's good. Everyone is. And yeah, you got to think about what makes them good and does that work at this course. You got to think about the guys who are going to make a lot of birdies, to make a lot of birdies, you got to put yourself in the spot to make a lot of birdies. Brooks hits it really far and he gains strokes off the tee. I mean, him and Justin are right next to each other. And you're going to get him at a fifth of the ownership. So you're making your lineup and you're just like, man, Justin and Stenson are going to be ridiculously high owned. I'd think about Brooks Koepka. And I mean, keep going. Paul Casey's always high owned. Nobody even tries to own Matsuyama anymore. I mean, I feel for the guy. He was close to the number one player in the world. He won this tournament last year, but I mean, if you're looking for a contrarian play, and the guy won it last year and he's 8,400 and he's going to be sub 10, I'd definitely go for that. To keep it going in this tier, Cantlay seems a little bit overpriced. The argument I would make for Cantlay is that he played really well at Memorial, and Memorial is very similar. Like I said earlier, I think I said it earlier, but if I didn't, Memorial is another long par 70. That was the Bryson Benon, I believe, yeah, Bryson Benon Kyle Stanley playoff, and Cantlay had a 2 or 3 shot lead on the back nine of that before kind of imploding. He's kind of a Kuchar. He kind of seems like a Kuchar Casey, a guy who, I don't know, there's something about him on Sundays. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't seem to get the job done. But he does play well. He did play well at Memorial, so, and he does make birdies and he does gain strokes off the tee. So I mean, it's a little higher than I'd like him in this field, but he is the type of guy who could play well at this course. Yeah, that's about it for this course. I didn't mention Noren. Should. I mean, he's solid across the board. He putts off the chart, but I don't know. I think if you're gonna go with that price, I would go with Brooks. I think I'd go Brooks at that range. And I don't know why I ignored the top, and I apologize. I should start there, but I mean, Day and Rom are both. I, I don't see how they're cheaper than Ricky Fowler. I don't get that either. I mean, Rom his form isn't the best recently, but he should just. I mean, he's second in strokes gained tee to green. He's second in birdie percentage this year. That is a formula for success at this course, and I would not pay $10,000 for Ricky Fowler if I could get John Rahm at 9,600. So I don't know how well you can do with having 2 guys at 9,600 or better. Like, I don't know if you can have you definitely can't have like a DJ Rahm. I mean, you can, but the honest field is actually pretty brutal. Sans a couple names. But if you were going to start your team, you could definitely start your team with Rahm and go from there. Maybe do something like Rom Brooks. Oh, wow. Jeez. Bubba is another one whose price I really like. 8,500. I'm not sure what his ownership will be. I know he's kind of popular amongst the fans, but he should be popular in DraftKings this week. Not like Rose or JT, but I do think this is a course where he should play well. He hasn't, which is I've struggled with the whole course history thing. Like, I get it. I get, somebody's won at a course. Dustin last week at Glen Abbey had 5 top 5s or something like that, something ridiculous like that. But I think that there's a lot of variance week to week, and I think we should really focus on just what kind of golfers. Like, we know who Bubba Watson is, and we know he hits the crap out of that driver, and he's just going to be in position to make a lot of birdies, and he's going to be in a position that a lot of other people in the tournament aren't in. I mean, and so yeah, he should play well here, and I would pay for Bubba. Which brings us down to the low 8s, high 7s, and there's 2 guys that really stick out, that always stick out. Not exactly breaking the mold here by saying that I really like Tony Finau, but I really like Tony Finau. 8,000 for a guy who just another guy like Bubba or DJ. He hits it really far and he hits it really well. He's gonna be in a lot of good spots, and if he can make putts, Patrick Mayo always talks about drafting a team of good ball strikers, because it's way easier for a team of good ball strikers, or not just a team. It's way easier for a good ball striker to have a weekend of hot putting than it is for a really good putter who doesn't hit the ball well to just randomly find it with his driver and his irons. And it's been really tough the last few weeks when you see guys like Michael Kim and Wee Kim, guys who you would never ever consider going with if you looked at the stats. Um, but I really think that's a philosophy you have to stick to. Tony Finau he's been so consistently good at hitting the ball. And yeah, he's never going to be a great putter for the entirety of a season. He's just not. But can he have a weekend of good putting? Yeah, that should be more likely than Wee Kim driving and approaching the green really well. It should be. Um, but if you were gonna look into this, Fantasy National lets you separate uh, putting statistics by types of greens, and I would really look at. It's another thing that you really should look at is types of greens. This course has bent grass greens, and again, that's similar to Torrey Pines, and it's similar to Memorial. And I think let me just make sure bent grass. I mean, most courses have bent grass greens, but Memorial is, I don't know why I called it the Memorial. Yeah, Memorial has bent grass, and Torrey Pines. I don't know. Torrey Pines has Poa. Oh wait, no, okay. So the north course has bent grass. All right, so it's close enough. Which brings us to the mid eights, brings us back to mid eights, and along with Finau, I really like Bryson DeChambeau. Again, don't think I'm breaking the mold here, but 7,800 just seems preposterous. I don't understand how a guy who's played this well. I mean, I guess his form isn't great, although he played well in Europe last week. But I mean, he's top 30 in every single category that's not putting. Top 25 in every category that's not putting. And I mean, look at the guys he's around. He can win this tournament. He won Memorial. And you know what? When he doesn't win, even when he doesn't place well, he scores points. He always does. And again, I'm going to reference Rick again, but he always talks about place independent scoring. And I'd be shocked if DeChambeau wasn't one of those guys who, like Finau, like Phil Mickelson, like Dustin, who doesn't need to win, doesn't need a top 10 in a tournament to score DraftKings points. Bryson will get you your points, or he'll withdraw from the tournament, which, yeah, I don't know why he did that. I mean, I do know why he did that, but it was annoying. Kuchar. I honestly don't love Kuchar this week because there's no cut. I know that's kind of cliche with Kuchar, but Kuchar's the guy who, if you have 5 guys you really like in the Masters who are volatile and are going to score, you just put Kuchar in the lineup so you know you have a guy who's going to make the cut. Probably not going to win. Probably not going to make a ton of birdies, although he's been doing better lately because I mean, it's just so dependent on his putter. He's just Matt Kuchar. But in a week with no cut, I don't know. He's just gonna what? I mean, even when he wins, the winning score is gonna be what, like 10 under? So what? It's gonna be a Kuchar round of like 12 birdies and 2 bogeys. Woo! I can't say I'd be super excited to roster Kuchar at 7,700 when DeChambeau's 7,800, and we get down to the mid to low 7Ks, and a few guys really stick out. At least it seems like they do. Phil, his price is kind of wild, but then you you look at his course history, and he has 0 top 10s at this course since 2003. He does not like this course. And it's because he doesn't drive it well. He just can't figure out how to do it. Interestingly enough, though, there's a couple things there's a couple arguments I want to make for Phil. Well, actually, I'm going to start with he's going to be high owned because he's Phil. Everyone loves Phil. So that his course history and the fact that he's going to be mid to high owned probably make him a good enough argument to fade. But if you want to talk yourself into Phil, here's the argument I would make. To bring back Pat Mayo's, it's more likely a guy who hits the ball well, finds his putter, than a guy who putts the ball well, finds the rest of his bag. Phil doesn't need to find the rest of his bag. Phil is great with his irons and is the second best putter in the world this year. And he makes the 3rd most birdies in the world. If he can just find his driver a little bit, he can win. And there's very few guys in the mid 7,000s who you really feel like can win this tournament. Obviously anyone in the field can win. I understand variance and I understand golf. So I'm not saying that like Russell Knox has a 0% chance of winning. I would not bet on Russell Knox to win at whatever price he is. But I understand that he can win, so don't take that literally. But Phil Mickelson has like a realistic chance of winning. Ben On at the same price is the opposite of Phil. I mean, he gains strokes off the tee, gains strokes from tee to green. He hits it really well, and he's in really good form. I would roster him. I wouldn't expect him to win, but he's hot, and he can score DraftKings points. Hatton seems to play tough courses and tough tournaments kind of well, but boy, I don't think you can, aside from, going with the low-owned guy, I don't think you can really excuse going with him when Phil and On, and then Kevin Chappell, who in the last 2 years I think has two top 15s in this tournament, and is a guy who should play well here if he can just putt, which is the story of, I guess the story of my life in DraftKings, because I really seem to like those guys who hit it really well, and if only they could putt. Speaking of the poster boy for that, brings us to 7,200, Luke List, who is one of the best pure ball strikers in the world. And this course should be made for him. I mean, he gains top five in the world in strokes gained off the tee, driving distance, and strokes gained tee to green. He just can't putt. Which, I mean, that's what you got to live with if at 7,200 if you're looking for a volatile elite value. So Luke List is the guy I would go with there. I'm just going to skip right past Grillo. He rates out well, but I can't keep rostering him and watching him suck. That's just too frustrating for me. So if I was going to, if you're a more rational human being than me, Grillo he's just always going to rate out well. He's not exactly like a Ches Reavie. Ches rates out well every week because he started the year off hot, him and Ryan Armour and Patton Kizzire. But Grillo really hasn't played that well recently. He still had a good year. He hasn't won. But, he's definitely going to be the best 7,100. Actually, probably, besides List, I would say he's the best. He would be my 3rd or 4th best below 8,000. Yeah, that looks about right. DeChambeau is obviously number 1. He in terms of ignoring price, like if I was just to rank the guys 7 to 7,900, DeChambeau would be 1 and List would be 2. So I guess Grillo would be in like the Phil On tier. And then Woodland and Brian Harman. I like Harman. He doesn't hit it far, so I'm really going against the grain. I'm really going against the grain with the whole distance thing, but he does gain strokes off the tee versus the field, and he has an amazing short game. And I could just see Brian Harman not missing any fairways, and he one thing you really can look into is, okay, so this course is long. You got to think like a golfer, and you got to think, if you don't hit it long like Brian Harman, what do you have to do to put yourself in a spot where you can still make a lot of birdies? You have to hit your irons well, and you have to hit your long irons well. And Brian Harman does that. I don't have the stat up here, but if you look at strokes gained approach 150 to 175, he does it. He hits it very, very well, and then he makes everything. I mean, he's just a really, really great putter. Other guys I would consider down here are Pat Perez. Just because there's no cut and he's going to make birdies. That is, I mean, that is the strategy for a tournament like this, is you want guys who are going to make birdies. Aaron Wise is interesting at 6,700. He kind of screams Chez to me. He won, when did he win? Was it like May? He won that one tournament that Leishman shot like 10 under on Thursday, and then Wise won on Sunday, kind of going away. But he hasn't really done anything since. In fact, I think he's missed like 4 straight cuts, or 4 or 5 cuts. But I mean, with no cut, you just go with a guy who could make birdies. And he hits it far. He gains strokes off the tee. If you want to roster DJ, hell, if you want to go like DJ Rahm, Wise, and then Brendan Steele are 2 guys I would consider. Definitely consider Steele, because I mean, look at this: 11th in driving distance, 6th in strokes gained off the tee. He's good at everything, and he can't putt. I mean, I might as well just have that on a like a speaker and have it press a button so I can just repeat that. But he's another one. If the putter gets hot this weekend, he hits it just as he. I mean, he hits it really well. And I think that'll just about do it for the field. I mean, obviously you can't go over everyone. Obviously there are gonna be names I missed. Kyle Stanley's one. Kyle Stanley definitely is a guy who he scores on par fours. He gains strokes off the tee, and he actually can putt. I don't really get why he doesn't make more birdies, but and he was in that playoff. I didn't mention that about Ben On, but him and Ben On were in that playoff against Shambo at Memorial. But yeah, I mean, this should be a really fun tournament, and I hope you guys can excuse my, for lack of better words, sometimes I would just ramble on, but this is the first time I've ever done this, and I appreciate anyone who listens. And I do this every week, so if there's any interest in me making a video again next week, comment away, and I will get that video made next week for the PGA. All right, guys, good luck, and thanks.